been a minute since I've had a chance to work on the car, so it's May 2nd. I think it's about time. Let's get to this. Still fairly clean. Now, the last time I made a video, I had pulled the turbo off to send it to Nick at Turbo Parts Canada for a little upgrade. And while I've had it back for a while, he did his upgrades. He put a billet compressor wheel in it, as well as changed the turbine shaft to a 9-blade turbine. He says it should allow a little more flow, a little less back pressure on it, and possibly give a little more top end, as well as better streetability. So we'll see how that goes. So I think everyone remembers how the turbo looked when I took it off, or if you don't, check back on my turbo removal video and you'll see what it looked like. So this is more or less how I got it back from Nick. You can see the new billet compressor wheel in there. It's been professionally balanced. The new turbine wheel you can kind of see in there. It's all brand new. I did take off the turbine housing and re-ceramic coat it because it had got banged up a little bit and my turbine housing was actually cracked. So I had repaired it and now it's all ready to go back on. So that's the goal today, is get this thing on and get this car back going. People following me on Instagram and Facebook will also know that while I had everything off, I took the time to weld a V-band clamp on my Evo 302 housing. I did a little more port work in here to ease the transition. This is going to make it a lot easier for getting the downpipe on and off. I've always hated the 2-volt flange. It seems like it doesn't matter what you do, it always leaks a little bit some way or another. And I've tried different gaskets, this and that. You know, if both flanges aren't 100% flat, it just never seals. So I think the V-band is going to really help this out. So here's my little upgrade stash for this year, for the most part. You've just seen the turbo and the O2 housing, which I welded the V-band onto. There's a tube of nickel anti-seize to go, for the turbo bolts, etc. Some water wetter. I've never really tried out water wetter before, but apparently most tracks don't really like it if you spill coolant on the track, so I thought I'd try something a little different and we'll see how that goes. Got a couple silicone couplers there, 2.5 to 3-inch reducers, a brand new set of NGK 1G replacement wires. I use the 1G because they're slightly cheaper and they also fit better with my coil pack relocation. And of course there's a big box under that. Yeah, so there will be a video on that coming up very soon. I almost forgot one little detail. I also have a new 2G turbo drain line to install. The original one had a little crack in it, so I removed that and installed a 1G drain line that I had kicking around. And while it works, it's not quite as large of an inside diameter. I prefer the 2G, and the only thing we'll have to do is to slot the holes where it meets up to the turbo to match up to the FP red, or Turbo Parts Canada red, I guess you'd call it now. Anyway, simple job. You just need to slot the holes inward a little bit because the holes are slightly closer together than on the stock T25. This is one of the best and most reliable drain lines you can install if you have a stock frame turbo. Look at that freshness. Amazing that there are still brand new parts kicking around for these cars after 20 years. There we go, nothing too complicated, just like I said, slot the holes on the turbo side in about 1.5 millimeters or 1/16 of an inch each way, or on each side. Clean up and deburr it, and you'll be fitting right on there perfectly. Throw that on with a new OEM gasket and we should have no leaks at all. I don't really want to bore everybody with the installation of the turbo. It's the exact opposite of taking it off. So I'm going to get to that. Just make sure you use anti-seize on your turbo bolts. And if you notice any damage or galling to the threads, replace them. Otherwise, you'll just have fun down the road. So there it is, all back together. Got the turbo on. Like I said, I didn't really want to bother showing that whole install process again, as it's the same thing as taking it off, just reverse. I cut the flange off of the downpipe and welded on another V-band like this, so that's all in there. Sorry I didn't really get any shots of that, but more or less cut it off, weld on, bolt it up. Nothing too complicated. I've also refilled the cooling system with the water wetter and distilled water, as well as 15% glycol antifreeze as per water wetter's instructions. So I've got a few other little things to do. I got to swap out my plug wires for the new set, put my intake pipe back on, little general cleaning here and there, verify a few other things. I'll do a boost leak test eventually here, and then hopefully we'll get her out on the road this weekend and see what it can do. So as I was alluding to earlier, I do have a new intercooler for the car. It's a Treadstone TR1045, which is just about the same dimensions as the Punishment Racing that's on the car now. However, it's 4.5 inches thick instead of 3 inches thick, and also a much denser core. So that should help my IATs to come down a lot. That's one of my big issues last year, is the Punishment Racing core was just not keeping up with the FP Red. What I want to do though is get the car back together the way it is right now with the Punishment Racing core on it. Get out, do a couple third gear pulls, take a baseline for my IATs, and then I'll swap out the core and try to do a direct comparison, try to get close to the same ambient temperatures and leave the boost in the same spot. We'll see what happens. I'm thinking it's going to help a lot, but we won't know until we find out. So anyways, I'll have a whole separate video on the intercooler core, so that'll be another day. First and foremost, we'll get this on the road and get out there and make some boost. So another little job I've got to do here, I've got a brand new set of NGK 1G plug wires to swap out. Don't think these are causing any troubles last year, but I'm going to swap them out anyways, just for peace of mind. These have been on the car for probably 2 years. So they've had their fair use, and at like 40 bucks, I'm not going to risk having any issues. There we are, there's the new set. This is part number 9634. It's a stock replacement kit for a 1G DSM. My coil pack is relocated down underneath the intake manifold, and these are slightly longer than the 2G wire, so it works out perfect for me. So there we are, that's nice and fresh. So I'll go ahead and swap those out now, and we'll get a start up. plug wires are in, well seated. You hear them click. Make sure your wires are not into your timing belt. Usually my spark plug cover is on and it covers it up, so there's no risk of the wires getting into the timing belt. You don't want anything getting into your timing belt or you're going to have a bad day. Got oil, got coolant. Don't have an intake pipe on right now, but the car's on speed density, so it doesn't really matter. Just make sure there's nothing in the way that could get inhaled into the turbo. I've already primed the oil to the turbo. Anytime you put a fresh turbo on, you want to make sure there's oil in it. Before I put my feed line in, I had squirted some oil into the feed line until it went all the way through, so I know for sure that there's oil in the turbo. Alright, I've checked everything. Oil, coolant, fuel, nothing in the way, nothing can get sucked in the turbo, nothing can get in the timing belt. Everything's tight. I think this will be the first start of 2018. I know I had it going in the winter, but can't remember if it was 2018 or 2017, but either way, it's springtime now, it's a new season. Let's see what happens. Fuel pressure, here we go. Love to hear those cams roll.